Oh, still just the one. Okay. I'm never going to get it. Do I got it for your class? Yeah. All right. Today, standard deviation, home runs per decade. Go to Google Classroom right now. Well, go to my website. You can click on it if you want, but just go to Google Classroom. And there's an assignment that says home runs per decade, spreadsheet. Open that up, maybe, I don't know, over here. And then put the video right here. And I'm going to walk you through step by step on how to use a spreadsheet as a calculator and to calculate standard deviation and to get what we need out of it. Okay, so just follow me. Let's go with the mini-me version of me down here.
All right, all right, all right. Here we go. Yeah, let's enjoy this one. Okay, open up the Excel sheet from Google Classroom, which says home runs per decade. I've got it right here. And why don't you go ahead and get my video on the same screen, and then we can talk you through it. Any box that is yellow needs an answer. Okay, so try to make that easy for you. And I also need to show you how this spreadsheet is basically just a calculator. That's all it is. Okay. First of all, explanation. In 1960, 26 baseball players in the major leagues hit 20 home runs. Of those 26, 10 hit 30. And of those 10, 3 hit 40. Okay, but nobody hit 50 home runs that season. That equated to 18.1% of players, or about 18% of players that year, reached the 20 home run threshold. 18% of the players hit 20 home runs or more. Okay, so this is how you can read the data. And then it just keeps going through each year. Now, as you can see in this decade, the range is from about 13% all the way up to a high of 26%. Okay, so there's definitely, it's going to fluctuate from year to year based on the pitching and the batters and the conditions and all that kind of stuff, size of the ballparks, whatnot. And throughout the years, as you just scan this, I think this is the percentage I want to focus on. It's been pretty consistent throughout the years. Notice it's 25, 10. Okay, so the range is a little wider in that decade. This one I've highlighted in green because in 1981, there was actually a strike for 6 weeks in the middle of the season. They didn't play the All-Star game that year. They did play the World Series, but that I think we should throw that one out of our data set because they do not have a complete season in order to amass the number of home runs that they should have. Okay, so we'll ignore that. Wow, look at this spike in 1987, 34%. That's the highest one we've seen so far. Okay, now let's go over to more recent years, the last 30 years of seasons. In the 1990s, it's pretty much been the same as it was in years past, but then we saw a spike at the end of the decade, 32%, 30%, 37%, an all-time high. And then we usher in the 2000s, where we are consistently in the high 20s to mid 30, low to mid 30s across the board. It's not like you had a year of 10%. They are just consistently starting to hit home runs. And notice I put these in red through here because that's what I've designated as the steroid era or the height of the steroid era. It probably began back in '87 with the Oakland A's and Canseco and all those guys. But right here we have the height of the era from '96 to 2006. And in green, you see another strike year in 1994. Again, they lost like the last 6 weeks of the season, maybe the last 2 months of the season. I think it was somewhere in there. I think it was suspended in early August, and they didn't play the World Series that year. So that was a big down point. Then we usher in this season, these seasons, this era of just massive amounts of home runs being hit. Okay, in 2006 we have the Mitchell Report. Now he was a congressman who was investigating baseball, and he found that many hundreds of players were using steroids. He listed some by name in his report, and then they put in some the most extensive penalties in all of major sports for anybody who uses. You know, if you get caught one time, it's half the season. You get caught twice, it's a full season suspension. If you get caught 3 times, you're banned for life. And what you'll notice is you start to see a decrease starting in 2007 from the previous years. Down, 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 up again, down, down, down. Okay, now we're back in the low 20s. So that happened. But then in 2016, something strange happened. We jump back to 41%, not back to, that's the highest it ever had been in years past. 41%, 43%. And then last season, an all-time high of almost half the players in the major leagues hitting at least 20 home runs. That's ridiculous. All right, part 2, data analysis. The first thing I want to do is I want to find the mean or the average of 20 home run hitters of the 1960s. So go ahead and click in this cell and then type an equal sign. And anytime you do that in a spreadsheet, it's now going to ask for what operations do you want to perform. Do you want to do simple calculations of like, I don't know, 1 plus 2? Yeah, it can do that. It's 3. But that's not what we want. We want the average of this column right here. Okay? So all you need to do is with the equal sign and the cursor in that cell, come over here and click and drag a box around those 10 cells, okay? And just let go. And notice over here it is autofilled G7 colon G16. So cell G7 is right here, range to G16 it has been highlighted. And if you just, the equal sign, make sure the equal sign is there and type the word average. And notice that an autofill average pops up. You can click that if you like, and it starts a parenthesis. And now it's asking for what cells would you like to highlight? Well, I want those cells that I highlighted before right here. So you click and drag a box around those, and then you can just hit enter. Okay. The average for the decade of the 1960s was 21%. Okay. That will be useful because when we do standard deviation, that goes right in the middle. So underneath the bell-shaped curve, where the mean should go, I have like, if we were writing it down, we'd write it here, but we're just going to put it in this yellow box underneath. Just put 21. Okay, you don't have to put a percent sign. Now go back up to this cell, find the standard deviation of the percent of 20 home run hitters from the 1960s, standard deviation. So anytime you're going to do a calculation in a spreadsheet, you start with an equal sign. Okay, it's like, what do you want to do? I would like to do standard deviation. There's actually a shortcut code for that, STDEV, standard deviation. And you can see right here, it says that, so you can click it. Then you select these same 10 cells, hit enter, and it gives you a number of 0.04. Now, if we move the decimal 2 to the right, that is 4%, okay? So we have a mean of 21% and a standard deviation of 4%. So you guys should know what to do by now with this. Let me move my little guy up here. You want to add 4 onto the mean going to the right. You can actually have this done for you as well. Let's say the numbers were more complicated or you couldn't add them in your mind as well. You can say equals, and you can say, I would like to add this cell plus 4. Okay, enter. And if I go ahead and delete these, you can actually carry that through to the other 2 cells. When you are on this cell that now has 25, and look, the formula is back up here. Everybody see this? This R27 plus 4, okay? That is cell R27 plus 4, and it got you to here. This little blue box that's in the bottom right corner of the cell, if you just take and click and drag that to the right 2 times, it autofills because it's like it remembers, oh, you wanted to add 4 to the previous cell. I will do that for you. That's pretty cool. Okay, so you could just like autofill anything you want with a simple addition. Now going backwards, we could do the same thing. Okay, we could say that this equals this cell minus 4. Enter. And once you've done that one time, you can then click and drag and walk that back, and it should just auto populate those cells with what you want. That's a pretty cool feature. Okay, so we now have the mean and the standard deviation spread of the data, okay? And that's one way you can use a spreadsheet to get this done. Let's do that one more time. Down here, okay, part 3. Now we're doing the 1990s, like I said. So equals, average, parenthesis, highlight the cells that you want. They are sitting right here. And you just click and drag and hit the enter button on your keyboard. The mean of this decade is 25%. For the previous decade, it was 21%. Okay, so slightly higher, almost 4% higher. Find the standard deviation of the percent of 21 home run hitters for the decade. Okay, so that should be a percent sign right there. I'm just going to go with it. Equals STDEV, parenthesis, and then it's waiting for which cells you'd like to highlight. I'd like to highlight these cells right here. Remember when, I missed one. When this number comes in, it's a percent as a decimal. 0.079 or 7.9%. Okay, so we scroll down a little bit. And here's your next bell-shaped curve or norm reference curve. I'd like you to place the mean of the 1990s right there. Let's move me over here now. The mean was 24.9%. There we go. Let's do that little trick that I did before, okay? Instead of adding 7.9 mentally, you can just say this cell is going to be equal to that cell, click on it, plus 7.9, enter. And it makes it 32.8. But I don't want to have to keep typing that because I'm lazy. So this is going to do it for me. So I'm just going to click on the cell that I was just in, see the little blue box, make sure you're hovering over that so you get these little crosshairs. Click and drag to the right 2 times, and it should automatically add 7.9 twice. Okay, let's go backwards. This cell is going to be equal to, click on 24.9, subtract 7.9, enter. And then we're going to walk that back 2 times. So click on it, hover over the blue box, and go 1, 2, bang. Okay. Now, didn't I tell you to leave out one of these years from the 90s? Didn't I say that? Let's go back up. Oh, yeah, the 12.7. See, that was an issue with the strike year, and that's really throwing off the data. Even with that in there, it's still 4% higher than it was in the 1960s with a strike year mixed in, okay? And the standard deviation is much wider. You know why it's wider? Because of that number right there. Now, there was in 92, it was only 15.8. But having the 12.7 mixed in with some 32s and some 37s is really spreading out that data. Okay, so you can see why the standard deviation is almost 8%, whereas back in the 1960s it was 4%. Okay, so if we leave that in there, we have to be cognizant of the fact that that's what's throwing that number off a little bit. Okay, this is your job. Okay, I want you to find the mean of 20% of 20 home run hitters from the 1960s all the way to 2020. Now, you don't have to go through the spreadsheet and like mix and match. I've done this for you over here on the right. Everybody take a look at the right side of the spreadsheet. I've got those years laid out for you in a nice big, in 2 columns. So you're going to click and drag from 1960 all the way down to 2020, or 2019, sorry. We'll change that to 2019 because 2020 hasn't happened yet. Who knows if it's going to happen at all. All right, and I want you to fill in these 2 cells. And then I'd also like you to fill in the mean and the spread of data, and then list the 2 seasons that are above the mean, that are 2 standard deviations above the mean. Just the 2. I don't know why I have 3 boxes there. It's kind of strange. There's only 2. Can you do that for me? Okay. Hopefully, if you need to go back and watch the video on how to find standard deviation or mean, please do that. But good luck. Email me questions, and then we'll do part 2 of this lesson tomorrow. Okay, I think we have one more thing to do back up top. So back to me.
Hey, that was awesome. At least I thought it was awesome. All right, now we need to talk about, is sugar destroying us? We talked about that on Friday or Thursday, I don't know. But we just got to keep that discussion going. So let's do a little marker toss and see what's happening. It's Teacher Appreciation Week. I got you something. Oh. It's got my name on it. That's really nice. I feel bad I didn't get you anything. Well, it is May the 4th. Oh, so you probably want to do a Star Wars thing then, don't you? Mm-hmm. Oh, you want to do Phantom Menace? We can do prequel. I was thinking we could skip Phantom Menace, go straight to Attack of the Clones. Whatever you want, buddy. Whatever you want. Lightsaber.
Execute Order 3.14.